Right now, I'm going to talk about how patriarchy affects young women in India, the extent to which it affects young women in India. I haven't conducted a scientific study, and I am not a qualified sociologist or some other thing. I'm an economist. But recently, I've had opportunity and occasion to talk to two sets of many young women in India, to listen to them. The issue was something else, but inevitably some issues of patriarchy came in, and I formed some impressions, and I'll share with you those impressions. So this is not a scientific study. I'm not an expert on this issue. I'm just a person who's had a chance to listen to many young women for reasons other than this survey. So there was no survey, just my impressions. The first set of young women were not well educated, but they were educated. They're poor, but not very poor. And I came to meet them through an NGO called FEA, which looks to give young people in India, male and female, 18 to 26, boost their self-confidence and to help them. And there are groups that you meet and talk to as mentors. About 50% of them are young women, and I have listened to them, I've heard them, and talked to them and helped them in several ways. It has been a great experience. So while the focus was on jobs and various other things, inevitably patriarchy came in. Right from the very start, several years ago, I realized that I could not connect to these women at a gut level, at an emotional level. The age gap was too much, the cultural gap was too much, and I looked like their grandfather. I was their grandfather's age, the age of which represents patriarchy. So to resolve this problem, I asked some women who were young and some who were senior to join me in these groups so that they could talk directly, more directly at a gut level, more credibly to these women who have been leading a life in which patriarchy was usually a major issue. It was very tough even for these women, my friends, my guests, to resolve the issues for the young women. Because in the end, everything has to be done on a personal basis. And it varies from person to person. Though what was common was that they weren't totally free to make their own decisions about whether to work, what kind of job to get. Though, of course, they had their parents' support and they were here to boost their self-confidence and improve their skills and so on. But part of it is, and now I'm speculating based on what I've read, that the marriage market in India has moved. There's no longer much demand for uneducated or poorly educated young women as brides. The marriage market demands more educated women to be the bahus of the family, to be the daughters-in-law of the family. So in response, the parents of girls have little choice but to give their girls a better education. Probably high school is not enough, probably a little bit of college is also good, and some job skills in case the in-laws want some income or the husband wants some income. So the marriage market has moved. It's not purely a progressive decision, it's more an economic decision. But other parents, yes, they want their daughters to succeed, marriage or no marriage, because also they're afraid that the marriages may be in trouble, and then they want their daughter to have the ability to have her own independent life and to have some independence. So inevitably in India, you cannot separate women from marriage because the families will not do it. But overall, the girls were, the women, the young women were ambitious and hardworking and motivated, but a little bit held back by patriarchy issues in the choices they would make in the future. And it was very tough for anyone to give them very practical advice, except generic things like, I worked my way out of it, and you will have to do the same. So indeed, the cloud of patriarchy looms large on these young women. Now, they're pretty hardworking, as I said, motivated, and so on, but held back a little bit by patriarchy. The other set of women are more educated. They're all at good colleges, highly educated, fluent in English, uh, and they seem to have the best of both worlds. They seem to have a lot of freedom as opposed to patriarchal constraints. And they still have the support of their families, in the sense how Indian families support their daughters. So they have the support and they have the freedom. But of course, how much the freedom is, that remains to be seen, though it seems that there is considerable freedom and the parents are quite supportive. Do what you want to do, have life your way. And they are willing to finance it considerably. Okay, so they seem to have the best of both worlds, but not quite. There were enough exceptions to realize that it is still not so easy for young women. They still face patriarchy issues, though side by side, they also have financial support, parental support, and so on. So the cloud of patriarchy is much less on these women, and yet they also seem to have enough support from their families to go ahead. And indeed, they are getting ahead. They are in the top universities, they are getting admitted to foreign universities, they are getting good jobs. And one of them told me that the prestigious Indian Economic Services is 70% women. UPSC, which holds all the general exams for various things, it's not 70% for women, but the Indian Economic Service is dominated by women, even though the economics profession as a whole is not dominated by women, whether in India or abroad, the Indian Economic Service is. So there is some sense that there is a cloud of patriarchy, but it's not big, it's not on everyone. And those who don't have it, they seem to be able to get ahead. As I said, these are just my impressions. They are not scientific, they're not from a sample, they were not designed. The work I did was not designed for this purpose, but still I think it's worth sharing with you. That's it for today. I'll be back soon with another opinion or some other interesting insights that I have developed.